And I cite that evidence. I try and cite that evidence and be fair and objective and give credit where credit's due. Some people don't do that. They should be held accountable for that. I don't want to say bash. I'm going to say it's fair to bash her. The reason being, guys, when we say bash, people will identify that word. They perceive that word differently. If I were to say argue or discuss, you're going to have two different perceptions of those words. They have very different meanings, but also similar meanings. I could say, we're arguing the case right now. Now, arguing doesn't necessarily mean people being unreasonable. Same thing with a word like conflict. People often say, like, oh, if you heard conflict, oh God, no, I can't deal with conflict. No. Conflict is bad. Conflict is not bad. Conflict is good. You know why? Because conflict stirs conversations like these. This is conflict. We are conflicting right now. We've had conflicting views. Stepan had conflicting views with some of what other things we're saying. He asked me about them. We had a critical discussion of the values. We argued the facts. So depending on your word usage, you got to be careful by saying things like bash. The reason being is because if we're trying to stay subjective and if we're trying to stay analytical and supportive of being objective and trying to come off and maintain a feeling of objectivity, we have to present ourselves in such a way. I will not give anybody a reason to say, this man right here is unreasonable. And riding mower, I think that you don't want that either. I think you want people to understand that what you're saying, there's truth to what you're saying, and that you present a valid argument, and that she deserves to be criticized. Okay, criticism is very different from bashing someone, from harassing them, and stuff like that. Now, you can be overtly critical of an individual, but criticism in itself is not bad. I think that's what we're doing. We're criticizing this individual who, in the presentation of the facts and the promotion of these identity politics, have actually hurt the cause of feminism and have perpetuated gender stereotypes herself. Okay, so we kind of talked about that. Now, to get back to another evidence of this claim, we want to go back to what we were saying about women and refrigerators. Now, if you missed the earlier portion of this podcast, we talked about, we put up one of Anita's videos that talked about women and refrigerators. Again, this is not even her own material. Women and refrigerators was started by a separate woman. I can't remember her name. I think her name is Gail something. I don't know. If you a quick Google search will bring it up to you. You can go to the website and visit it there, and you can read what it's all about. It's all about the depowerment of female comic superheroes. So within the comic book industry, there are several women and other writers and men that felt like women were being objectified in these comic books, and that they were presented in such a way as weak, that they were depowered, and that they were victims of assault. And that's all they were. They were victims, and they were objects to be acted upon. Well, a lot of men, obviously, or male comic book enthusiasts, myself included, reacted negatively to that assessment. Now, I comprise a list, and in my list of examples of strong women that defeat those stereotypes, I presented some examples of female comic book superheroes that defy the norms. I talked about Red Sonja, I talked about Jean Grey, I talked about Carol Danvers. Let me talk to you about Carol Danvers, Miss Marvel. Okay, she is one of my all-time favorite superheroes of all time, okay? She makes the list on this women and refrigerators list that as a female character who's been depowered. She has her powers stripped from her. She's a victim of an assault. She's beat up constantly. She has her mind and memory erased, and it's affected her on a philosophical level to where she starts coping with her problems with alcohol. She becomes an alcoholic, and she battles through her alcoholism. Now, let me show you a picture of who Carol Danvers looks like. Now, this is let me see if I can find her. Here she is. Okay, I'm going to bring her on over here, and I'm going to switch views so you can see what she looks like. Tell me if this looks like a strong woman or not. I want to hear honest opinions from you guys. Tell me if she looks like a strong woman in this scene. That's Carol Danvers right there. Okay, that is Miss Marvel. That is one of her many incarnations. This is her in the Age of Apocalypse storyline. And I want to read this to you, just in case you can't read it. That's Carol Danvers. She has a couple of Uzis pointed at the back of Wolverine's head. And he says, gotta be Carol Danvers. Do you really know? You really know, and he says, gotta be Carol Danvers. I don't know anyone who smells like gun oil, C4, and Chanel No. 5. You really know how to compliment a lady, don't you? He said, and then Wolverine goes on to narrate this. He says, she was an Air Force intelligence spook at the space agency security honcho. At a space agency security honcho before she started running with the Human Defense League. Okay, so right there in this small panel from the Age of Apocalypse storyline, you have Carol Danvers. She was a spy. She was an Air Force intelligence spook and a space agency security honcho. So she worked for an assumed very intelligent space agency. Okay, where's your better half? The Purison and the I can't even say this fucking word. The Pusiant and the Plurichek. I can't say these words. Let me type this out. She says this. Where's your better half? The Procodius. Oh, those words. I can't even. I think I just misspelled them. I can't even say those words. I'm sorry, you guys. I have a problem reading. Most of you guys know I have a reading disability and I have a hard time reading. This is an example of a woman who, according to the women in refrigerators, was robbed of her powers. Okay, she was robbed of her powers. She was stripped of her powers, and she wasn't a powerful woman. If you're gonna tell me that a woman that can sneak up on Wolverine and give him cause for concern and earn his respect, that she's not a powerful woman, you clearly, I don't know what you're reading. You're not reading the same comic books I'm reading. Or if you are, you have a weird perception of reality. Because this is an example of a strong woman. And this story was written by a man. It wasn't written by a woman. This is a very real, strong character. This is one of my favorite storylines in comic books history of all time. And she is one of my favorite she is my favorite incarnation of Miss Marvel. Let me show you another example of the same comic book of Carol Danvers, and this is like a plot synopsis kind of like of who she is during the Age of Apocalypse. And oh no. Apparently they took. I might have to go like and look this up. So during this, okay, let me just explain it. They used to have this page that talked about, and here's the page right here. Carol Danvers, Age of Apocalypse wiki. Now, for some reason, the link to this page got broken. I don't know what. Let me see if this is it. Let's see what this is. Nope. Okay. For some reason, the redirection. This page is currently not working right now, which really fucking pisses me off because, again, this is one of my favorite storylines, but I know what happens in it, so I can just tell you. You guys will have to take. Unfortunately, I can't show you the actual Marvel evidence. This is official from Marvel Studios documentation of her. I wanted to show that to you guys so you guys knew that I was being clear and transparent. You'll just have to take my word for it, or go buy the comic books. Even better, go buy Age of Apocalypse and then find out for yourself how strong this character is. So in that scene that I showed you, that art of Carol Danvers. AKA Miss Marvel, in that universe, she is not the Miss Marvel that she is in the heroic age of the tip of. See, there's Marvel universe is broken up into different universes, and so like Peter Parker is not the same incarnation in every universe. Like Miles Morales is also Spider-Man in Earth 2029. I don't know what it is, but he's on Earth 2029 or something like that. He's on a different Earth. He's in a different multiverse that doesn't follow the main story canon of the Marvel universe. He's in like a side story, and he plays Spider-Man. He's Spider-Man of his world. Okay, in this world, Carol Danvers, aka Miss Marvel, never got imbued with the powers of super strength, of flight, and all the other powers that she had. In this thing, she is merely a human. Okay, and she fights Apocalypse, and she fights for the Human Defense League. If you don't know who Apocalypse is, in case you were planning to go see Age of Apocalypse in theaters anytime soon, Apocalypse is he's argued to be the first known living mutant, and he espouses Darwin tendencies, in which he promotes a world in which only the strong survive. So he's a mutant, so naturally he believes, via identity politics, that his race is the strongest race. So he culls entire populations. He culls the human population from the earth. And you have his 4 horsemen of the apocalypse ride out and sow discord and destruction and death among these populations. Now, certain populations of humans are allowed to exist because they work in work camps, and they do certain like that. And they work in farms and shit like that, and they feed the mutants and shit like that. And even mutants in his society have a caste system. So depending on your powers, you'll be graded. You can be like a Class Z mutant, and you're in the bottom rung. You're almost a human. So you're considered like nothing, and you're a bug that can be squashed. You don't have the same rights. Carol Danvers in this incarnation is a human fighting against superpowered beings. And she has survived to the end of almost the end of this storyline in the Age of Apocalypse to this point, and has been very successful in what she's done. Now, in this storyline, she takes Wolverine to meet the Human Defense League. He goes up there to say, we need your support. We're going to launch an attack on Apocalypse roughly this time. But during that discussion, after Carol Danvers escorts him out, they are attacked by Donald Pierce and the Reavers. Now, these guys are people that have been injected, or they're infected, if you will, with this techno-organic virus that turns them into these weird kind of cyborg type of people. Can you? Yeah, hang on. 1 second. I just gotta ban someone. There we go. Okay, I just had to perma-ban someone. I apologize. Someone was PMing me. They thought they were being funny. So you had this individual. So you had Donald Price and the Reavers capture Carol. He comes in. They try to assassinate the Human Defense League, and in her defense of these humans, she's firing bullets off of them, firing shots off of them, and they grab her, and they're about to throw her out this window. This really tall building, and presumably she's going to die from a high position of height. Okay, so they grab her. They're trying to kill her. They try to kill Wolverine. She saves Wolverine's life. She then grabs the guy, and then while she's being thrown out the window, she's like holding on to this guy, and he stabs her and impales her. She gets infected with the virus, but rather than be a victim, what does she do? She pulls the pin on her grenade and blows herself up. Now, that is an example of strength and heroism in a very real sense of like physical prowess. She exemplifies extraordinary abilities and just competence and skill of being like a soldier defending and fighting for her cause. Now, again, what is all this comic book stuff? What does the story have to do with discrimination? Well, allegedly, according to women in refrigerators, women in comic books are depowered. And Carol Danvers, Miss Marvel, this character I'm talking about right now, is used as an example of one of these characters. They don't even talk about this scene where she blows herself up with this grenade. Now, you might say, oh, she was forced to kill herself, Renee, for the better good. And Wolverine happened to survive. Well, she's also a human. And I would say that even though her life was brought to a tragically short end, that it ended in a very heroic and meaningful way. She didn't go out like some old bitch. And she went out fighting like a true soldier, like a true hero. I remember reading that comic book for the first time when I was a kid and saying, that is such an awesome character. And I didn't think, oh, dude, she's a girl, and that's why she's awesome. She was an awesome character because she fought for what she believed in, and she didn't take anybody's bullshit, She wasn't intimidated by people that were stronger than her or more powerful than her. Now she goes on. Because she's been infected with the virus, she comes back as a Reaver herself, and she actually fights the virus in her system when she's supposed to assassinate the Human Council once again. And she begs Wolverine to kill her, and he's like, "I can't do that. You're my